ഹല്ലേലൂയ, പ്രൈസ് ദി ലോർഡ്. വീണ്ടും ഒരാഴ്ചയ്ക്ക് ശേഷം നമ്മൾ യൂത്ത് മീറ്റിംഗ് ആയി കൂടി വന്നിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ദൈവകൃപയാൽ നമ്മൾ ഓരോരുത്തരും ദൈവം കാത്തു പരിപാലിച്ചു നമ്മൾ ഈ ആഴ്ചയും ക്ഷമത്തോടെ ആയിരിക്കുന്നു. ദൈവത്തിന്റെ വലിയ കാവൽ നമ്മുടെ കൂടെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ദൈവകൃപ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നുകൊണ്ട് മാത്രമാണ് നമ്മൾ ഈ പാൻഡമിക് സിറ്റുവേഷനിലും ഒരു രോഗം വരാതെ പോലും ദൈവം നമ്മളെ കാത്തു പരിപാലിക്കുന്നത്. ഓൾമോസ്റ്റ് ഒരു ഇയർ ലൈക്ക് 75% കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ആയിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നു. ഇയറിന്റെ ഒരു 75% തന്നെ കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ആയി. ലൈക്ക് ഗോയിങ് ടു ഫാസ്റ്റ്. പാൻഡമിക് സിറ്റുവേഷൻസ് ഇപ്പം പഴയതിനേക്കാളും കൂടിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. നമ്മൾ പ്രേയേഴ്സ് എല്ലാത്തിലും കൂടുതൽ ശക്തിപ്പെട്ട് നമ്മൾ ഇരുന്നാലേ നമുക്ക് ഈ ഒരു കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ നമുക്ക് നിലനിൽക്കാൻ കഴിയത്തുള്ളൂ. സോ നമ്മുടെ യൂത്ത് മീറ്റിംഗ് നമുക്കിന്ന് പ്രാർത്ഥിച്ച് ആരംഭിക്കാം. ബ്രദർ സാൻജോസ് പനിക്കൽ പ്രാർത്ഥിച്ച് നമുക്കിന്ന് മീറ്റിംഗ് ആരംഭിക്കാം.
സ്വർഗീയ പിതാവാം ദൈവമേ, നന്ദി കർത്താവെ, സ്തുതിക്കുന്നു, വാഴ്ത്തുന്നു, മഹത്വപ്പെടുന്നു. കർത്താവെ, ഇന്ന് സന്ധ്യാസമയം കർത്താവിന്റെ നാമത്തിൽ കർത്താവെ കൂടി വരെ തന്നെ കൃപയ്ക്കായി സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. കർത്താവെ, ഇന്ന് സന്ധ്യാസമയം കർത്താവെ കൂടി വന്നിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ കർത്താവെ, ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് കർത്താവിന്റെ ആത്മാവിനാൽ തരുന്ന വചനങ്ങൾ കർത്താവ് ജീവിതത്തിൽ പ്രാവർത്തികമാക്കുന്ന കർത്താവ് സഹായിക്കണം. കർത്താവെ, ദൂരത്തും ചാരത്തും കർത്താവെ ആയിരിക്കുന്ന കർത്താവെ, ഓൺലൈനിലും കർത്താവെ ആയിരിക്കുന്ന കർത്താവെ, വിദേശത്തായിരിക്കുന്ന എല്ലാവരും ഓർത്ത് പ്രാർത്ഥന കർത്താവ്, എല്ലാവരും കൂടി വന്നിരുന്ന കർത്താവിന്റെ വചനം കേട്ട് പ്രാവർത്തികമാക്കും കർത്താവ് സഹായിക്കണം. കർത്താവ്, ഇന്നത്തെ വചനം ഷെയർ ചെയ്യാൻ ഈ ആഭാസനെ ഓർത്ത് പ്രാർത്ഥന കർത്താവ്, അപ്പൊ വചന കർത്താവിന്റെ ആത്മാവിനാൽ കർത്താവ് വചനം ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് തരണം. കർത്താവെ ആത്മാവിനാൽ കർത്താവ് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് വളരാൻ കർത്താവ് സഹായിക്കണം. കർത്താവിന്റെ ആത്മാവിനാൽ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഗൈഡൻസ് തരണം. കർത്താവ് അടുത്ത് ഞാൻ തലങ്ങൾ നിറയ്ക്കാൻ കർത്താവ്, ഈ പാൻഡമിക് സാഹചര്യത്തിലായിരിക്കും കർത്താവ്, രോഗത്തിന്റെ ക്ലേശത്താൽ ഭാരപ്പെടുന്ന എല്ലാവർക്കും പ്രാർത്ഥന കർത്താവിന്റെ സഹായത്തിൽ കർത്താവ് എല്ലാവരും പ്രൊട്ടക്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ കർത്താവ് സഹായിക്കണം. കർത്താവ് നടത്തണം. കർത്താവ് സ്വീകരണം മഹത്വപ്പെടുന്നു. അവിടുത്തെ നാമത്തിന്റെ മാസത്തിനായി തീരാൻ കർത്താവിന്റെ നാമത്തിന് ഓർത്ത് പ്രാർത്ഥന കർത്താവ് സഹായിക്കണം. ഓർത്ത് പ്രാർത്ഥന ചെയ്തു.
Thank you, Brother Sanjos. Brother Sanjos, last July, last week ആണ് married ആയത്. I think he is with his wife in this meeting. So all the very best for your future life, Brother Sanjos.
Thank you.
ഓക്കെ, സോ ഇന്ന് നമ്മുടെ വർഷിപ്പ് ലീഡ് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള ട്രിവാൻഡ്രം ഫെയ്ത്ത്സിറ്റി ചർച്ച് കൊയർ മെമ്പേഴ്സ് ആയിരിക്കുന്ന കണ്ണൻ ചേട്ടൻ ആൻഡ് ഏബിൾ ആണ്. സോ ഫോർ ദ നെക്സ്റ്റ് 15 minutes അവർ നമ്മൾ വർഷിപ്പ് ലീഡ് ചെയ്യിക്കുന്നതായിരിക്കും. ഓവർ ടു ബ്രദർ കണ്ണൻ ആൻഡ് ഏബിൾ.
പ്രൈസ് ഗോഡ്. ഹല്ലേലൂയ. ദൈവനാമം മഹത്വപ്പെടുമാറാകട്ടെ. ഒരു ശനിയാഴ്ചയും കൂടി യൂത്ത് മീറ്റിങ്ങിൽ കടന്നു വന്ന് പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കാനും ആരാധിക്കാനും തന്ന ദൈവത്തിൻ്റെ വൻകൃപകൾക്കായി നന്ദിയോടെ സ്തോത്രം ചെയ്യാം. രണ്ട് പാട്ടുകൾ പാടി നമുക്ക് കർത്താവിനെ സ്തുതിച്ച് ആരാധിക്കാം. ഹല്ലേലൂയ. യേശുവിൽ മാത്രം നമുക്ക് ആശ്രയിച്ച് നമുക്ക് മുൻപോട്ട് പോകാമല്ലോ. ഹല്ലേലൂയ. ദൈവനാമം മഹത്വപ്പെടുമാറാകട്ടെ. നമുക്ക് ഒരു തമിഴ് പാട്ടിൻ്റെ ഈരകൾ പാടി നമുക്ക് കർത്താവിനെ സ്തുതിച്ച് ആരാധിക്കാം. ഹല്ലേലൂയ.
உயிரின்
நீரில்லாத வாழ்வெல்லாம் வாழ்வாகுமா? உயிரின் ஊற்றே நீயாவாய், உலகின் ஒளியே நீயாவாய். உயிரின் ஊற்றே நீயாவாய், உலகின் ஒளியே நீயாவாய். உறவின் பிறப்பே நீயாவாய், உறவின் பிறப்பே நீயாவாய். உண்மையின் பலியே நீயாவாய், என் உண்மையின் பலியே நீயாவாய். நீரில்லாத நாளெல்லாம் நாளாகுமா? நீரில்லாத வாழ்வெல்லாம் வாழ்வாகுமா? நீரில்லாத நாளெல்லாம் நாளாகுமா? நீரில்லாத வாழ்வெல்லாம் வாழ்வாகுமா? ഹല്ലേലൂയ, സ്തോത്രം. ഹല്ലേലൂയ. യേശു ഇല്ലാത്ത നാളുകളെല്ലാം നമ്മൾ പാഴായിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഹല്ലേലൂയ യേശുവിനോട് നമുക്ക് കൂടുതൽ ചേർന്നിരുന്ന് നമുക്ക് കർത്താവിനെ സ്തുതിച്ച് ആരാധിക്കാം. നമുക്ക് ആശ്രയം എപ്പോഴും യേശുവിനുള്ളതിനായി നമുക്ക് ഭാഗ്യം. ഹല്ലേലൂയ. അതുകൊണ്ട് 1000 വീണാലും 10,000 വീണാലും ഭയപ്പെടാതെ നമുക്ക് മുന്നോട്ട് പോകാൻ കഴിയും. ഹല്ലേലൂയ. ആ ഒരു പാട്ട് നമുക്ക് ചേർന്ന് സ്തുതിച്ച് പാടി ആരാധിക്കാമല്ലോ. ഹല്ലേലൂയ. ആയിരങ്ങൾ വീണാലും 10,000 വീണാലും വലയമായി നിന്നെ കാത്തിടുവാൻ ദൈവദൂതന്മാരുണ്ടരികിൽ. സാധ്യമാക്കി തരുന്ന ദൈവത്തിൽ ഫലമേൽപ്പിച്ചു കൊടുക്കുക. പ്രൈസ് ഗോഡ്. ഹല്ലേലൂയ.
താങ്ക് യു കണ്ണഞ്ചരൻ ആൻഡ് ഏബൽ. സോ ഇന്ന് നമ്മുടെ ഇന്നത്തെ ദിവസത്തിന്റെ മെയിൻ സെഷനിലോട്ട് നമ്മൾ കടന്നു വന്നിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ഇന്ന് നമ്മളിവിടെ ജിബി ചേട്ടൻ ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. ജിബി ചേട്ടൻ ഇന്ന് US നിന്നാണ് ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തത്. ലാസ്റ്റ് നമ്മുടെ കൂടെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നത് ഒരു നാട്ടിൽ നിന്നായിരുന്നു, കേരളത്തിലുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഇന്ന് US നിന്നാണ് ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. സോ ഇന്നത്തെ ടോപ്പിക് ട്രസ്റ്റ് ബിയോണ്ട് റീസൺസ്. ട്രസ്റ്റ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു വലിയ ഫാക്ടറാണ്, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഈ ജനറേഷനിൽ. ട്രസ്റ്റ് ബേസ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് പണ്ട് മുതൽ ഏത് ജനറേഷനിലാണെങ്കിലും ട്രസ്റ്റ് ബേസ് ചെയ്തിട്ടാണ് എല്ലാവരും, ഈവൻ എ ഫ്രണ്ട്ഷിപ്പ് ഓർ വാട്ട് എവർ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ്, ട്രസ്റ്റ്. ഒരു ട്രസ്റ്റ് ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ നത്തിങ് ഈസ് ദർ. സോ നമ്മളൊരു റീസൺ, ഒരു ബിയോണ്ട്, ഒരു പ്രത്യേക റീസണിനേക്കാൾ മേളിൽ വിശ്വസിക്കാൻ പറ്റിയ ഒരാളേ ഉള്ളൂ, ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് ജീസസ്. കൂടുതൽ നമുക്ക് ഈ ടോപ്പിക്കിനെ പറ്റി കേൾക്കാം ഫ്രം ഡോക്ടർ ജിബി റാഫേൽ. ഓർ ടു ഡോക്ടർ ജിബി റാഫേൽ.
Thank you, Joel. It's again nice to be with you all. And you know, as Joel said, trust is an important thing, especially during this time. And I know many of you are thinking, I just heard, you know, I was looking at this new variant, Delta variant, and it's a lot of people who got vaccine is getting COVID. So, you know, it's really, really scary, right? Before we thought, hey, once you get vaccine, everything will be the same, and you know, everything will go back to normal. We can be, you know, back we were when we were pre-COVID, and you know, we can go back to church, and you know, we can go back to school, and you know, all those things. So, you know, and you know, God has a definite plan, right? There is no sure. It's for sure, and sometimes we don't know what it is. That's the problem, right? God has a definite plan, but we don't know what it is, right? And sometimes God takes you through a journey, you know, to teach you something. You know, the destination. If only destination was important, you know, God could have killed you the same hour that you got saved, right? Because you all got to heaven, and you know, you all get to go to heaven, and you get saved, and you get to heaven, and then you know, mission accomplished, right? But God, you know, it's part of learning, right? God takes people through a journey, because for God, it's not just the destination; it's a journey. It's a journey that's it's as important as destination. So it's kind of scary times. It's almost like you know, no end in sight, right? It's you know, sometimes you go when a train goes through a tunnel, it goes dark inside the train, and if it's dark for a few minutes, then it's okay. But then you know, you don't see the other end of the tunnel, and it stays dark for a while. Then it starts people start to freak out, right? So it's very important, especially during this time, in this, you know, unprecedented season. You know, there's nothing like this that has happened ever, and in this magnitude, global, worldwide, every country, and this isolation. You know, being at home, and you know, offices closed, and kids, you know, at home, and it's like it's really, really, really unprecedented time. We have found a way to bypass this, go around this. We have found a way to you know, overcome this, find substitutes, but you know, it's not the real thing, right? It's when are the old? You know, I'm sure some of you are thinking, you know, when are the old days when I can just be myself and not have the mask, and you know, go to church, and so the solution here is really, you know, again, God is saying, you know, trust in me, and it's easy to say. It's very easy to say, but sometimes it's hard to trust in God, right? Sometimes it's hard to trust in God. So today, you know, I wanted to look into that, especially it's quite relevant. You know, trust is very relevant, because God is saying trust in God, and we we are looking around and saying, hey, there's nothing that I can trust, right? If you can truly trust in God, and these days, that's what we need. We need to trust more and more in God. So let's start with the verse that shows what's the, if you put your trust in God, or for a person who trusts in God, what does it look like, right? So if you it's a clear it's a clear definition of trusting in God, right? And you can easily compare yourself to that. Like if I tell you this is what it looks like for a person who trusts in God, you can then say, hey, what does it look like, right? What does it look like? If am I this person? It's easy to see, if you're this person once I show you the bar, right? So let's read. Let's see Jeremiah 17:7. Right? So one of you can read Jeremiah 17:7. It shows clearly what does it mean, right? Or it shows. It talks about a person, who trusts in God, right? Let's see how close we are to that person.
Just 1 minute. Video on ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നവരൊക്കെ വീഡിയോ ഓൺ ചെയ്യുക. ഞാൻ മാത്രം ഓൺ ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ള ജിബിൻ എൻ്റെ ഫേസ് മാത്രം നോക്കി മെസ്സേജ് പറയേണ്ടി വരും. സോ പറ്റുന്നവർക്ക് വീഡിയോ ഓൺ ചെയ്യുക. So I can see around 29 devices. So at least 5 to 10 devices easy ആയിട്ട് ഓൺ ചെയ്യാവുന്നതാണ്. So
Okay, so who wants to read Jeremiah 17, chapter 17, verse 7?
Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord.
Yeah, keep reading. 8 and 9 too. Sorry.
He is like a tree planted by water that sends out its roots by the stream and does not fear when heat comes, for its leaves remain green. It is not anxious in the year of drought, for it does not cease to bear fruit. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it?
Yeah. So
The Lord.
Yeah, that's enough, Eben. So here is a picture. Here's a picture of a man or a woman, right, or a boy or a girl, of a person. Let's call it. I think it's in some translation it says human being, right? That's just is the human being who trusts in the Lord. So it's not just a man thing. So blessed is the one, right? The one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. And then it says, what does it look like when you trust in the Lord, right? What does it look like, right? It says the tree will not fear when heat comes, right? And its leaves are always green, and no worries in a year of drought. And it never fails to bear fruit, right? So as if you look at a tree, especially you don't see this much in India, but in US, it's seasonal, right? You have 4 seasons, especially if you go to East Coast, New York, and all that. You have 4 seasons, your fall, summer, spring, winter, and then you see trees responding to the season, right? You see when it gets to winter. It happens in my place too, where all the trees, all the seasonal trees shed their leaves. There is no leaf left, right? For almost like 4 months, 5 months, no leaves, right? And then and the leaves come back, right? Bright and green, and the summer hits. Like right now, all the trees are full of leaves, right? And then towards fall, it turns color, right? It becomes, the green leaves becomes red and yellow and pale, and as with respect to a tree, the climate, the external climate, right, is a fear. Right? If you're a tree, you don't want to go through winter, because as soon as winter hits, your leaves are shedding, right? It's not green anymore. You start responding. So external factors, right? The tree is always, responding, right? Always at the mercy, I should say, at the mercy of external factors, right? And then the external visible factors, right? Visible factors, right? And then even under the root, one of the fear the tree has is, if it doesn't, as we all know, we were away for a while, and most of our plants are gone, right? I mean, in terms of the flowering plants, some of them are resilient, so because no water, right? So we weren't here to take care of it. But Jeremiah says this is what it means to trust in the Lord. If you trust in the Lord and you have confidence in Him, it essentially means is you're like a tree. You won't fear the external factors, and not only you not fear, it's not your trees are always green, right? The climate may go, the things around you may go, green, snowing outside, and heat outside, and this is from a desert perspective. So I'm assuming Jeremiah is talking about the summer months in the desert with the heat and all those things, and no worries about the drought, right? Of a lack of water, right? So and this is a good definition of what really it means to trust in the Lord, right? Like being not only being unshakable. Some people say, okay, I'm unshakable because I trust in the Lord. That's not good enough, right? It's not good enough, because these on the highways, you don't see that anywhere, right? They used to mark every mile using a stone, right? No matter what happens, you could have 16 footers go through the road, or you can have buses, trucks, whatever go through the road. The stone just stays. Nothing happens to the stone, right? Rain or shine, right? So that's good. That's part of being trusted. But that's not enough, right? Here it says, even being able to be green in the face of affliction, in the face of external factors, even being able to bear fruit, that's a whole another level, right? So it's not just enough to contain everything inside and use your willpower and pretend as if nothing is wrong, but also you're producing fruit. So this is really the bar, right? This is what it really means to trust in the Lord, right? So, and it's an easy comparison, right? So you can compare your life with this example, and the reason many of us are not even close to this, right? Forget even making fruits, even just not being anxious, not being afraid. Some people have told me, hey, why are you not doing well in the exams? They say it's a nurse, right? So I studied everything, I know everything, and I can do it, but it's just I get so tensed, right? So that's what it means, right? So that's what it means to really trust in the Lord. So and it's very important, and the world is not getting any better, right? The world is it's on a downward spiral, right? All the implications of COVID we haven't even seen, the economic implications, right? Like countries are hemorrhaging cash and taking on debt and starting to stimulate the economy, and so there are a lot of businesses getting shut down. So the world, I don't want to make everyone sad, but we are not going back to pre-COVID days ever, right? Again, I'm not saying church will be closed all the time, but I'm saying that there will always be a fear, at least, of something like this happening, and so one thing, we cannot control external factors, right? Like this tree here, right? We cannot control external factors. But one thing we can do is to be green, irrespective of external factors, to bear fruit, irrespective of, and no worry about the year of drought. And the solution here, is to trust in the Lord, and it's much easier said than done, right? So let's talk a few things in the next 20 minutes, right? I want to make sure we end at 10:30, right? So in the next 20 minutes, let's look at a few things about trust. So, Bible talks a lot about trust, right? What does trust comes from? Trust comes from the brain or the heart, right? What do you guys? It's a fun question, right? Anybody has any answers? Where does trust come from? Right? Bible talks about it, right? It's a very familiar verse that we all know. Go ahead. There was somebody there. It comes from the heart, right? Trust is an emotion. Yeah. So Anne is saying heart too. So all of us agree, right? So let's read this very famous verse. I had this verse actually stuck in my room growing up as a kid. So Proverbs 3, right? Verse 3, chapter 3, verse 3, 5, and 6, right? If somebody can read that.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart. It doesn't say with all your brain, right? Read everything you can and get an understanding. And, it's almost saying opposite, right? Lean not on your understanding, right? Whatever you have, let not the brain, it even says, let the brain not come in between you trusting in God, right? Like trust in the Lord with all your heart, right? And beyond all reason, right? That's the topic for today. In all your words, submit to him, to his will, and he will make your paths straight. This is a situation, if I want to paint this verse, it's almost like this S curves, right? The curves that when you go to Munar or something, you have this, hairpin, that's right. One of the challenges with hairpin is the path is so crooked, you don't know what's coming on the other side. Most of the accidents happen because of that, right? You're trying to turn, so you don't know what's coming on the other side, right? It could be a big truck coming from the other side, and then at high speed, right? So here saying, hey, trust in the Lord with all your heart, right? And he will make your crooked paths straight, right? So let's look at the fundamentals again. Trust is a well-studied topic, right? In business, there's even an equation, trust equation, right? In the business areas, there's a lot of work going on in improving trust, because everything works in trust. The customers trusting, companies trusting, suppliers. If you can improve the trust, there's a famous study that talks about responsiveness, right? Like how soon, this is the world of call centers, right? How soon a company responds to a request, right? Somebody studied that, and it is exponentially proportional to time, right? Companies who can respond to customers immediately, right? As soon as they call, it's a well-known study that says has increased your sales by almost 100% or something, some big number. I don't remember number, right? So rather than waiting for a day or two, right? So that's so things like that. So how to increase? Let's have a discussion, right? How do we again let's get to God, but between we all have relationships on this earth, right? Multiple types of relationships, and almost all of them you have to trust the other person. Right? Almost all of the relationships, right? You have to trust the other person to get anything done, right? So, let's look into how do we build trust, right? What are some of the ideas? How do we build trust, right? Anybody has any ideas?
Through communication.
Or spending time.
Spending time, communication. What else? Any other ideas? Great answers, by the way. How do you just imagine, your friend or your coworker or your whoever, right? Neighbor or your doctor, right? Or imagine all these relationships in your life. And if I ask you, hey, improve your trust, right? Increase your trust. How do you increase trust, right? Or what are the things you look for to trust somebody? Let me ask you that way. Like, what are the things you look for to trust somebody, right? Let's take a doctor, right? What do you look?
Is he faithful? Is he faithful?
Yeah, that's a great one, right? Is he reliable? I'm going to say reliable, right? Is he reliable, right? Especially if that person has done something before and you see it's reliable, that increases trust, right? That increases, like, we say that about some of the buses back in the old days when there were buses and not trams. Like this bus always comes at the right time. It stops for 5 minutes in this stop, and you better be there or it's gone, right? So and then I've heard people say, you can get into that bus, you'll make sure you're certain that you will reach at this time at your destination. Like, there's no question asked. Whatever happens, this bus will take you to the destination and you'll be there at that time, right? So that comes from reliability, right? So it's reliable. It can do again and again and again and again. Again, Swiss people do this the best, right? I mean, Switzerland, they call themselves the better Germans, right? And if you go to Switzerland, I hope some of you get to do that. All the trains and everything, it's like to the dot, right? To the dot. Yeah, like to the seconds, right? Sharp, right? On time. So you can say, if you're in Switzerland, if you're planning your journey, there's no ambiguity. It's not like, hey, you'll reach between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock. If the train says 7:05, you will reach your destination at 7:05, right? Highly precise. Right? That's why Swiss watches are so expensive, right? They work on precision, right? It's all about precision for them, right? So reliability, that's a great answer, right? So let's what else, right? How do we build trust? Right? Let's imagine, let's say your doctor and your teacher, right? Well, what does it take you to trust your doctor or your teacher? Or your coach, right? Imagine, I don't know if
Performance.
what was that? I didn't hear that. Can you repeat it? Performance, yeah, that's a really good answer, right? So, or I would call it credibility.
That were like the past results.
Past results, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm going to call it credibility, right? I don't know if I haven't seen this in US, in India a lot, but in US at least, if you walk into your doctor's office, you see all the certificates, all the graduation and all the certificates the doctor has in his office, right? And it's ironic that you don't see anybody else doing that, right? In the office, right? The software engineers don't do that. They have a degree, right? But if when you're going to a doctor's office, it's important that the person is credible for you, right? The doctor is going to do certain things to you. You're being vulnerable, right, in that room with the doctor, and you want to make sure that guy or girl or lady knows what he or she's talking about, right? So credibility, right? Credibility, certificates, truthfulness. And people even say, which is kind of true, right? Even admitting your faults, right? Everybody cannot be perfect, but admitting your faults increases trust. There's a study that says an average human being has about 13 secrets, right? Don't ask me how they found all this, right? Everybody walks around with about 13 secrets. And out of that 13, 5 or 6, they'll take you to the grave, right? They have never shared anybody, right? So we, again, there is a lot of, if you hire a mentor or a coach, or a counselor and all, they all encourage you to share your secrets because it improves your trust with the other person, right? But that's not my topic. So credibility, right? Credibility is an important thing, especially when it comes to places of power, right? And places of professional services, right? I mean, if a painter comes to your house, or somebody comes to do anything in your house, you want, or you go to a builder to spend, crores of rupees on your house, you would want to see references, right? You would want to see the houses that person has built before, right? So that's that, right? So what else? We haven't touched a very important point, right? Which is, so we talked about reliability, right? More the reliable, more we trust, right? We talked about credibility, right? More credibility, more credible. Can anybody think of anything else?
Experience.
That's a good one, right? So I'll put that under credibility, right? And maybe reliability too, but mostly credibility, right? What else? Just think about the other actors in your life, right? Doctor, then you have, I talked about trains, and then, then think about your siblings. Why do we trust them? And I don't, you can't say your siblings are credible and reliable. I don't think so. I don't think many of you can say that. They may be the most, uncredible, person on planet Earth. Or think about, look at Joel's picture, right? On today's WhatsApp, right? A boy jumping to a dad, right? And the dad can be a drunkard, right? Highly unreliable, right? Credible, dad could be, sick, right? And weak, right? But still the boy jumps. Why?
Relationship,
right? I'm going to call it intimacy. Right? Huge, right? Just imagine all the people you have trusted in your life, right? You didn't always trust people because they're reliable, or because they're credible, right? Because of intimacy, right? Because because say again?
Yeah, the bond you share.
The bond, right?
Yep.
The bond, yeah. So as you can see, it's a complex equation. There's actually a trust equation, right? The trust equation says, it's a very famous equation. I forgot the author of the equation. It's used. People use this in the business settings a lot. Trust equals reliability plus credibility plus intimacy divided by self-obsession, right? That's the equation. Now you can go look it up, right? That's a very, very famous equation, trust equation, right? So, but self-obsession is nothing but, if you feel like the person cares only about them, right? Trust erodes. If you that's why it's very hard to trust self-obsessed people, right? It's very hard to trust people who are all about themselves, right? And when Trump got elected, during Trump's presidency, I didn't mean to be political, but that was one of his biggest trust problems, right? And people, people say that's because that's the reason he lost the election, because he came across as a self-obsessed person. Like, it's about him and about his things and all of these things. So it was very hard to trust in him. And that's one reason people say he lost the election, right? So let's get into so great answers. Great, as you can see, at least one thing is certain based on everything you said. Trust comes from the heart, right? It almost freaks me out when you think about, the most valid possession of a person in the world. And some of you won't understand this, but I'll say from my experience. If you ask me what's your most, obviously Jesus and all that, but most valued possession for me on this earth are my kids, right? And there's no debate, right? So even for a most valued possession, sometimes when we have to go out or, especially during this COVID season, we don't want to take kids to stores, right? Or if you have to go, like one of my friends had COVID and we went there to drop something for them and pray for them, not get into the house, but maintain your social distancing and all that and pray and all that. But we can't take it. So we look for people who can take care of our kids at home. Right. So I'm talking about the most valuable possession. Everybody claims they have children, right? So, you imagine you have a 15-year-old girl, next door neighbor who right? Who right? And 15-year-old girl's maturity, it's okay, and imagine you have somebody else who moved in to next to your house, like 45 years old, 15 years old, PhD in child caring, right? But just moved in, right? So credibility, check, right? And reliability, maybe, right? But I personally would still prefer the 15-year-old girl, and that's crazy, right? That's what I'm trying to say. It's not really about your reasoning or understanding. If I go with my understanding, I would have said, hey, 15-year-old lady who's been doing this, who's a teacher, all right, who has been teaching and knows how to take care of kids and respond if there's an emergency. Why do I not go for that person to take care of my kids in my house, our kids in my house, right? I still go for that 15-year-old girl who I'm used to, who I'm familiar with. So I just set that example to say that, as we just read, trust comes from the heart. Sometimes you cannot explain trust, right? It's not about thinking through processes and things like that, right? So that's why we call this session trust beyond reason. It's not, you can't reason trust many times, right? It comes from the heart. So let's in the next 10 minutes, let's get into the real meat of this, right? And we do it all the time, right? So that I want to talk about a person. Just read very quickly James 5:17. James 5:17. Can somebody read that? James 5:17. It's the last chapter, last few verses of James, right?
Elijah was a man just like us. He prayed earnestly that it would not rain, and it did not rain on the land for 3.5 years.
So Elijah, again, it's a very interesting comment that James make, right? Hey, Elijah, again, let's level the equation, right? Elijah was just like us, right? Don't think, Elijah was a superhuman, right? He was just like us, right? He was somebody, you look at yourself in the mirror, that was Elijah, right? And James, it's kind of very interesting. So let's start with, I wanted to start with that equation because don't think trust is for superhuman people, right? Trust is for you and I. So we all know the story of Elijah, right? So the first thing, really quickly, and we're out of time a little bit here, but if you go to 1 Kings, right? Let's it's very fascinating. Elijah is one of those people that fascinates me, and the first experience of Elijah, at least a documented experience between Elijah and God, right? You read First Kings 17, 2, 3. Just read 5 and 6 in interest of time. 5 and 6. First Kings 17, 5 and 6.
So he went and did according to the word of the Lord. He went and lived by the brook Cherith, that is east of Jordan, and the ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook.
So this is Elijah. So he went and said Ahab, right? Hey, it's going to be a drought, and this is like just like the tree we just read, right? Planted by the streams. And Elijah was like, I don't have to worry about. And you have, talk about Swiss trains, right? You have ravens coming him one evening and morning, and giving him food, right? So Elijah had no. And then let's read one more one. 18. Can you read 18? 38. 1838. 1 Kings 1838.
Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt offering and the wood and the stones and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when
this is
saw it,
thanks, Edward. So this is Elijah bringing fire from the heaven to consume, right? His reputation was at stake. So if I tell you, this trust equation between God, you're talking about Elijah trusting God, right? So you have God demonstrated to him every day, hey, I'm going to send ravens, give you food every day, and I can act on, when I ask you to do something, I'll do that on your behalf, right? So in this trust equation, reliability, credibility, intimacy, self-obsession, which one did God prove to Elijah? Really quickly. What did God prove to Elijah by doing all these things for Elijah? So go look at the ravens. Elijah had no doubt God is credible, right? He does what he says he would do, right? Check. Credibility, check. Elijah had no doubt God is reliable because he just got fed, right, for many, many days at the same time by a raven, and it wasn't an accident, right? So Elijah had this trust equation. Elijah had no question God is able, right? Elijah had no question God is credible, right? But then you see Elijah, and we all know the story, so I'm not going to dwell on this. You see 1 Kings 19, 4. Can you read 1 in 19, 4?
and came and sat down under a broom tree, and he asked that he might die, saying, It is enough now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my fathers.
Take away my life. If you read this chapter before reading the previous chapter, you might think it's a different Elijah, right? The man who brought fire from heaven, right? The man who got fed by ravens, the man who went through all these intimate, relations, the intimate acts with God, right? Walking hand in hand with God, just because we don't have time, but you all know this, right? Jezebel, the queen said, I'm going to kill this guy, right? Because he killed 400 of Baals, of prophets. He said, I'm going to kill this guy. Just because of the word of the queen of the land, Elijah is now saying, God, I gave up, right? Because, I'm like my ancestors. His trust got shaken. Trust got shaken. So what happened here, right? What happened to Elijah here, right? Why did Elijah's trust? This doesn't look like the tree planted by the waters we read, right? We read tree that will not fear when the heat comes. No worries of the year of drought, right? So what Elijah is saying here is, God, I look at my ancestors, you're credible, you're reliable, you're God. We all believe in God. So, there's no question, we know you can do it. But God, I think you are self-obsessed, right? Will you do it for me, God? Look at all my ancestors, they perished. God, is it your plan, right? Based on your plan, how important am I? Is there anything unique about me? That's what Elijah asked. All my ancestors perished. Right? That erodes trust. We already proved that. That erodes trust. Big time. This feeling of God. You just care about you and your plans. Do you really care about me? Am I unique to you? Right? Or am I one among my ancestors? You're just using me to accomplish your plans. So I don't know how many of you, while I was preparing for sermon, the Holy Spirit told me, some of you are probably thinking that way, right? What is special in me? I'm one of my ancestors, and that shakes trust, between you and God. That brings a big barrier between having you being to trust God. So, you all know the story. To the person who asked, "I'm a unique God. Do you have a unique plan for me?" What is the thing that God did just for Elijah in the Bible? He didn't do this for anybody in the Bible. He did only this for Elijah. What is the answer?
God took him alive into heaven.
Absolutely. To the person who said, "I'm like everybody else. I'm like my ancestors, right? And they all perished, and I'm going to perish like them. God, you're only using me to accomplish your plans. I'm a unique, right? In your big picture, God demonstrated, "No, Elijah, I'm going to do things for you that I've not done for anybody on the planet Earth. Anybody." Again, I want you to take you back to James, what you read. Elijah was a man like us. Right? So sometimes our trust erodes because of these, and it happened to Elijah, and none of us have, if you self-reflect on that to ourselves, none of us have issues trusting ourselves, credibility of God. Right? And the question is, God, will it, what is it? Isaiah 49:15 says, "Can a woman forget a nursing child, that he should have no compassion on the son of her womb? Even if they forget, I'll not forget." It's very interesting. God uses the example. Obviously, mother's love for the kid, child, son, is the highest bar on the earth. One of the highest bars on the earth. But still, one thing God is telling is, you can ask any mother. They may have like 10 children, but each of them is unique for that mother, right? She will know intimately what that person, what the allergies are, what that person like, what that child likes, and what the plans of the child is. Unique, right? So I'm going to finish in two minutes, but let me say one thing. You'll have to trust me on that. I don't have time to prove it. So people took all of these factors, right? This is even a research topic, and they took reliability, credibility, intimacy, self-obsession, right? It's a scientifically proven part, right? And they asked a question: to improve trust, what is the one thing that we have to improve, right? The most effective thing to improve trust, right? Anybody wants to guess an answer? Right? In all of these, reliability, credibility, intimacy, self-obsession, what's the most important thing? Where do you get the most bang for the buck, right? What is the most important thing to improve trust? Absolutely. Yeah, Anne is on a roll today. Absolutely. Intimacy. It's a very, very proven fact. Right? You need to improve trust. Don't bring more certificates, right? You can be as reliable as you want, but the lever that improves trust, the most intimacy. That's what I want to talk about today, right? In 1 minute. Right? So, and we go back to the verse we read. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water. That's the secret. It's not like any tree, with willpower and staying there saying, "I'll be okay, I'll be okay, I'll be okay, I'll be okay." That's where rosaries came from, right? I'll be okay, I'll be okay. This is a tree. It has something that nobody else has, can even see. What it has is its root has gone under and is connected to the stream. It's hand in hand. It's intimate with the stream, right? This is not a tree that was a kilometer away from the stream. This is a tree that is intimate with the life-giving stream, right? So, that is what that we need these days. How do we build intimacy? Somebody told, let's talk about husband and wife. They got married, and then they went on their way, separate ways. Will that be intimacy? I don't think so. So what's the one thing you need to improve intimacy? The one thing that helps with improving intimacy with God or with anybody, anything. Anybody has answers in 2 seconds? Time. Absolutely. Anna's stealing all my thunders today. Yeah, absolute time. And this is something you can test, guys. The more time you spend with something, the more intimate you become with that thing. It's common sense, right? So my challenge for you all today is, we talked about there's so many distractions in the world, right? Even while listening to Zoom, this is a world now, it's easy to multitask, right? Sunday worship, even now, I don't know how many of you are multitasking. Hey, you have TV going on one side, you have your textbook on one side. So my challenge for you today is, more time you spend, it's a very simple equation. More time you spend with God, no compromise, right? At least 30 minutes, right? If you can, or at least 15 minutes with God. The more time you spend with God, the more intimate you get with God, and the more trust you have with God, and the more unshakable you are, and the more fruits you bear. It's a straightforward equation, directly proportional equation, right? So let me leave you with that. I'm out of time, right? So I challenge you, right? It's hard. Your mind is going on in 10 different directions. In this digital world, it's even hard to focus, right? When you lie down and watch Zoom, it's not like sitting in the church in the front seat and enjoying the presence of God. And I get it, but having that conscious effort, right? God, I'm going to consciously spend time. If you put that input, you'll see fruits at the other end, right? So with that, let me hand it back to Joel.
Thank you, Dr. Giby Raphael, for the message. So, ഞാൻ കൂടുതൽ പറയുന്ന സിനിമകൾ നമ്മുടെ കൂടെ ഉണ്ട്. So we had back-to-back meetings. 7 start ചെയ്ത meeting ആണ്. Fasting period 9 കഴിഞ്ഞു. And again, continuous meetings ആണ്. So not taking much time. Or to Dr. Joyce Matthew for the conclusion and closing prayer.
Praise the Lord. വളരെ നല്ലൊരു ക്ലാസ് നമ്മൾ കേട്ട് കഴിഞ്ഞു. ജോലി ഓർപ്പിച്ചതുപോലെ വളരെ ലെങ്തി ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു സെഷൻ ആയിരുന്നു. മീറ്റിംഗ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. നിങ്ങൾ അതിന് പാർട്ടിസിപ്പേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് കാണും. ഞാൻ വേറൊരു മീറ്റിങ്ങിലായിരുന്നു. അതിന് മുമ്പ് മറ്റൊരു മീറ്റിങ്ങിലായിരുന്നു. വൈകുന്നേരം ആകുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും നമ്മളുടെ എല്ലാ സ്റ്റാമിനയും പോവും, നമ്മുടെ അറ്റൻഷൻ പോവും. എങ്കിലും വളരെ നല്ലൊരു മെസ്സേജ് നമ്മൾ കേട്ട് കഴിഞ്ഞു. ഞാൻ കുറച്ച് നമ്മുടെ വർഷിപ്പ് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടാണ് ജോയിൻ ചെയ്തത്. അപ്പം ജിബി വായിച്ച ഭാഗം ഞാൻ വളരെ ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചു. അത് യെരമ്യാ പ്രവാചകന്റെ പുസ്തകം 17-ാം അധ്യായം 7-ാമത്തെ വാക്യം. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. പെട്ടെന്ന് സ്ട്രൈക്ക് ചെയ്തൊരു വാക്യം, അതിനൊരു ഭാഗം കോൺഫിഡൻസ് ആണ്. ജിഫി എടുത്ത് പല പ്രാവശ്യം പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നു. എൻ്റെ ആത്മവിശ്വാസം, കോൺഫിഡൻസ് എന്ന വാക്കിന്റെ ആ അർത്ഥം മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയുമ്പോൾ ഹാവ് കോൺഫിഡൻസ്. ആ ട്രസ്റ്റിന്റെ വേറൊരു വകഭേദമാണ്. കുറച്ചും കൂടെ ഇന്റിമേറ്റ് ആയിട്ടൊരു വാക്കാണ് കോൺഫിഡൻസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഹീസ് കോൺഫിഡന്റ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഹി നോ ദാറ്റ് ഹി ക്യാൻ. ആത്മവിശ്വാസം, ഞാൻ എന്നെ കുറിച്ച് തന്നെ കോൺഫിഡൻസ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് എന്നോട് കോൺഫിഡൻസ്, the great trust that I have in myself. അത് 71-ാമത്തെ സങ്കീർത്തനത്തിലൊരു വാക്യം എന്നെ വളരെ ചലഞ്ച് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു വാക്യമാണ്. അതിങ്ങനെയാണ്, 71 verse 5. For you have been my hope, O sovereign God, my confidence since my youth. മലയാളത്തിൽ പറഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്ന ബാല്യം മുതൽ നീ എന്റെ പ്രത്യാശയാണ്. For you have been my hope, നീ എന്റെ പ്രതീക്ഷയാണ്, എന്റെ ആഗ്രഹങ്ങളാണ്. ഓ സോവറിൻ ഗോഡ്, സർവശക്തനായ പരമോന്നതനായ കർത്താവേ, ബാല്യം മുതൽ നിന്നിലാണ് എന്റെ സകല ആത്മവിശ്വാസം. മലയാളത്തിൽ വളരെ സിമ്പിളായിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അങ്ങനെയാണ് നമുക്ക് ട്രാൻസ്ലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. കർത്താവേ, നിന്നിലാണ് എന്റെ സകല പ്രത്യാശയും ആഗ്രഹങ്ങളും എല്ലാം. കാരണം എൻ്റെ ചെറുപ്പകാലം മുതൽ, എൻ്റെ ബാല്യകാലം മുതൽ എൻ്റെ ആത്മവിശ്വാസം മുഴുവൻ നിന്നിലാണ്. There are a lot of people having trust in many things. Some people have their confidence in their physique. Some people have their confidence in their education. Some people have their confidence in their career or position that they have, or the bank balance. പക്ഷെ ഇവിടെ ദാവീദ് 70 Psalm 71 എഴുതിയെന്നാണ് നമ്മൾ വിശ്വസിക്കുന്നത്. അതിന്റെ പാറ്റേൺ, അതിന്റെ പോയട്രി സ്റ്റൈലൊക്കെ വെച്ച് നോക്കുമ്പോൾ ഡേവിഡ് തന്നെയാണ് അത് എഴുതിയിരുന്നത് നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ പറ്റും. എന്തോ ടൈറ്റിലെ ദാവീദിന്റെ പേരില്ലെങ്കിലും അവന്റെ ലൈഫിലേക്ക് നോക്കുമ്പോൾ അവൻ പറയാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഒരു കാര്യം ഇതാണ്: ഫ്രം ചൈൽഡ്ഹുഡ് യു ആർ മൈ കോൺഫിഡൻസ്. മലനായ ഗോലിയാത്തിന്റെ നേരെ ഓടി ചെല്ലണമെങ്കിൽ കോൺഫിഡൻസ് മറ്റൊന്നിൽ വെക്കാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. ഒരു സിംഹത്തിന്റെ നേരെ ഒരു 14 വയസ്സുള്ള പയ്യൻ ഓടി ചെല്ലണമെങ്കിൽ സ്വന്തം കഴിവിലൊന്നും പറ്റത്തില്ല. ഓൺലി ഇൻ ദ കോൺഫിഡൻസ്, ഇഫ് ഐ ഹാവ് ദ കോൺഫിഡൻസ് ഇൻ ദ ലോർഡ്. ദൈവം, ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞ തെറ്റിപ്പോയി, കോൺഫിഡൻസ് ഇൻ ദ ലോർഡ് അല്ല, കോൺഫിഡൻസ് ഈസ് ദ ലോർഡ്. ദൈവമാണ് ആത്മവിശ്വാസം. ഇഫ് ഗോഡ് ഈസ് മൈ കോൺഫിഡൻസ്, ഐ ആം ഇൻ ദ സേഫസ്റ്റ് പാർട്ട് ഓഫ് ദിസ് വേൾഡ് എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ ആരോ പറഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്നത് കേട്ടത്. ദൈവമാണ് എന്റെ ആത്മവിശ്വാസമെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ ഏറ്റവും സേഫസ്റ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള പ്ലേസിലാണ്. നമ്മുടെ പൊസഷൻ, ഇന്റിമസിയെ കുറിച്ച് പറഞ്ഞു, ഞാനൊന്നും റിപ്പീറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നില്ല. ഇന്റിമസിക്ക് ടൈം സ്പെൻഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിനെ കുറിച്ച് ജിബി പറഞ്ഞു. ഇന്റിമസി ഉണ്ടാകണമെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ കൂടുതൽ ടൈം സ്പെൻഡ് ചെയ്യണം. then you will know him more. Knowledge, അറിയും തോറും സ്നേഹിക്കുവാൻ കൂടുതൽ തോന്നുന്ന ഒരു വ്യക്തി മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ, ഇത് കർത്താവാണ്. വേറെ ഏതൊരു വ്യക്തിയോട് അടുത്ത് ചെന്ന് നോക്കിക്കോ, യു നോ the color of that person. നിങ്ങൾ ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചു നോക്കിയാൽ മതി. ഏതൊരു വ്യക്തിയോട്, whoever he is, the greatest, holiest man in this world, go near to him. അടുത്തേക്ക് എന്നാൽ മനസ്സിലാകും, he is not that as we expected. But there is only one person. Only one person. ആരുടെ സൗന്ദര്യമാണ് വർദ്ധിക്കുന്നതെന്ന് അറിയാം അടുക്കും തോറും? ക്രിസ്തുവിന്റെ മാത്രം. So knowing him, spending more time with him will increase the intimacy and he will be our possession. ജിബി പറഞ്ഞല്ലോ, ലോകത്തിലെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയ, സാധാരണ ലൗകികമായിട്ട് നോക്കുമ്പോൾ ഗ്രേറ്റസ്റ്റ് പൊസഷൻ ചിൽഡ്രൻ ആയിരിക്കാം, ഗ്രേറ്റസ്റ്റ് പൊസഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ജോബ് ആയിരിക്കാം, മറ്റു പലർക്ക് സ്പൗസ് ആയിരിക്കാം, വാട്ട് എവർ ഇറ്റ് ഇസ്. But for a true child of God, the possession, the greatest possession is the Lord. കാര്യങ്ങൾ വ്യത്യാസം. ഇന്ന് കേട്ട വളരെ മനോഹരമായ സന്ദേശം ഹൃദയങ്ങളെ ആഴങ്ങളെ സ്പർശിച്ചു നിൽക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. Let us have the close proximity with the Lord and the companionship with God, and let him be our confidence. നമ്മുടെ ആത്മവിശ്വാസം അവൻ തന്നെ ആയിരിക്കട്ടെ. ഒരു ദിവസം നമ്മുടെ കണ്ണുകൾ നമുക്കടയ്ക്കാം, പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കാം. കരുണാസമ്പന്നനായ ദൈവമേ, സ്വർഗീയ പിതാവേ, വളരെ മനോഹരമായ ഒരു സെഷൻ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് തന്നതിനായി നന്ദി പറയും. ഞങ്ങളുടെ പ്രതീക്ഷയും ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഹോപ്പും നീയാണ്. കാരണം നീ തന്നെയാണ് ഞങ്ങളുടെ ആത്മവിശ്വാസം. നിന്നിലല്ല കർത്താവേ, നീ തന്നെയാണ് ഞങ്ങളുടെ ആത്മവിശ്വാസം. ജീവിതത്തിന്റെ ഏതെല്ലാം സാഹചര്യങ്ങളിൽ കൂടെ കടന്നു പോകേണ്ടി വരുമ്പോഴും നിന്നിൽ മാത്രം പ്രത്യാശ വയ്ക്കുവാൻ ഞങ്ങളെ സഹായിക്കുമാറാണ്. നീ ഞങ്ങളുടെ എല്ലാം ആയിരിക്കണമേ കർത്താവേ. ഈ ജീവിതത്തിൽ നിന്നേക്കാൾ ഉപരിയായി മറ്റൊന്നിനെയും ഞങ്ങൾ കണക്കാക്കുവാനോ, നിന്റെ രാജ്യത്തെക്കാൾ വലുതായി ഈ ലോകത്തെ വലുതായി കാണുവാനോ ഒന്നും ഇടയാകരുത് എന്ന് പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു. സഹോദരക്കാരൻ 16 സംഘത്തിൽ പറയുന്നത് പോലെ, വിത്തൗട്ട് യു നത്തിങ് മേക്ക് എനി സെൻസ്. നീ ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒന്നിനും ഒരു അർത്ഥവുമില്ല കർത്താവേ. ഞങ്ങളെ കുഞ്ഞുങ്ങളെ പഠിപ്പിക്കുമാറാകണമെന്ന് പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു. ലോകത്തിൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും കാര്യത്തിന് വേണ്ടി നിങ്ങൾ ട്രസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാനല്ല, നീ അൺകണ്ടീഷണലായി യാതൊരു കാര്യങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണ്ടി അല്ലെങ്കിലും ഇത് തന്നെ പ്രത്യാശയായിരിക്കുവാൻ ഞങ്ങൾ എല്ലാവരെയും നീ സഹായിക്കുമാറാകണമെന്ന് പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു. ജിബിയെ കാര്യങ്ങളെ സമർപ്പിച്ച് പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു. നിന്റെ മോനെ അധികമായി നേരത്തെ ഉപയോഗിക്കുമാറാകണമേ. കർത്താവിന്റെ ശക്തമായ ദൂത് വഹിക്കുവാൻ വീണ്ടും കൃപയും പരിശുദ്ധാത്മാവിന്റെ നിറവും കൂടെ സഹായിക്കുമാറാണെന്ന് കുടുംബമാനികളിലേക്ക് മാറാകണമെന്ന് പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു. ജോലിയോർത്ത് പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്ന കർത്താവെ, കോട്ടയറ്റിയെ സഹായിച്ചതിനായി നന്ദി പറയും. അതുപോലെ കർത്താവെ, ഇന്ന് ആരാധന ലീഡ് ചെയ്ത മക്കളെ ഓർത്ത് പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നവരെ സഹായിക്കുമാറാണ്. ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഇന്ന് തന്ന നല്ല കൂട്ടായ്മയ്ക്കായി ഞങ്ങൾ നന്ദി പറയും. അടുത്ത ശനിയാഴ്ച ഞങ്ങൾ ഒരുമിച്ച് നിരസലിൽ കൂടി വരുന്ന അവസരം വരെയും ദീർഘകൃപയിൽ ഞങ്ങളെ പുതിയമാറാകണമെന്ന് പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു. ഞങ്ങൾ കുറവുകളെയൊക്കെ ക്ഷമിക്കണം കർത്താവ്, ഞങ്ങളേറെ കുറവുള്ളവരാണ്. അതൊക്കെ അങ്ങ് പൊറുക്കണമേ. നിന്നെ പോലെ ഞങ്ങളെ സഹായിക്കണമേ. നീ ആത്മവിശ്വാസമായിരിക്കാൻ കൃപ നൽകുമാറാകണമെന്ന് പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു. മഹത്വമെല്ലാം അങ്ങേക്ക് അർപ്പിക്കുന്നു. പ്രാർത്ഥന കേട്ടിരിക്കാൻ സ്തോത്രം, യേശുവിന്റെ നാമത്തിൽ തന്നെ. ആമേൻ. നമ്മുടെ കർത്താവായ യേശു ക്രിസ്തുവിന്റെ കൃപയും പിതാവായ ദൈവത്തിന്റെ സ്നേഹം ആശ്വസിപ്പിച്ചു വഴി നടത്തുന്ന പരിശുദ്ധാത്മാവിന്റെ സംസർഗവും കൂട്ടായ്മയ്ക്കാവും നമ്മെല്ലാവരോടും. കർത്താവായ യേശു ക്രിസ്തു വരെ ഇന്നേക്കും ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കുമാറാകട്ടെ. യേശു ക്രിസ്തു മുഖാന്തരം നമുക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ നൽകുന്ന കർത്താവിന് സ്തോത്രം ചെയ്യാം. ഹല്ലേലൂയ, ഹല്ലേലൂയ, ഹല്ലേലൂയ. ആമേൻ. കർത്താവായ യേശുവേ വേഗം വരണമേ.
താങ്ക് യു ഓൾ ഫോർ ജോയിനിങ്. നാളെ രാവിലെ ആരാധന സൂമിൽ ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കുന്നതായിരിക്കും. വിൽ ഓൾ മീറ്റ് നെക്സ്റ്റ്